What up, everybody? Today I'm digging into the question, who else helped Tommy Egan fake his death and get away? A question that I definitely would like to know the answer to, because there's a hole in the story here. Maybe that will be answered at another time. But I personally would have liked to see Force Episode 1 starting off from Tommy's perspective when he went, where we saw him in Ghost Episode 110, where he arrives back on the scene in New York, and from his perspective showing him arriving back into New York, shooting up Monet's bar, speaking to Cash, and most importantly how he was able to get out of the car and disappear before being seen or before his car blows up, and who provided him the clean ID, vehicle registration, and everything else. Because at least one more person knows that Tommy Egan is still alive. We know that Tariq is the one who set everything up, so Tariq knows that Tommy's still alive. His mom, Tasha St. Patrick, knows that Tommy's still alive. Tommy's mom, Kate Egan, knows that Tommy is still alive. It's after I don't know if she knew already, but she definitely knew after seeing him in the hospital in Force. They came back into contact and everything in Force, so Kate Egan knows that her son Tommy Egan is still alive. And there might even be an additional person who helped Tommy Egan get away from the crime scene when his car exploded. So we have the person who provided Tommy Egan the clean ID, vehicle registration, everything else. That's at least one more person who helped Tommy get away. And there's the additional person who helped him get away from the crime scene. That could have possibly been Tariq, but I doubt it. There had to have been someone else there, because he took out his teeth and left them in the car or whatever. So when the car exploded, they'd find his teeth to see that he got burnt up in the car. But everything happened so fast. I would have definitely liked to see how he was able to get away from that scene without the feds finding him or anything like that, because they had the entire area sealed off. But of course he created the delusion also that gave him the opportunity to escape the area with the car exploding. So, but I feel like he definitely had to have someone there waiting for him at the scene, so where he could just jump into their vehicle and then take off to Chicago, or he was actually headed to LA. So in the conclusion of Power, moving into season 1 of Ghost, Tommy Egan was in the wind, nowhere to be found. After Ghost's death, he left and was supposedly headed to California, and arrived back in New York on the scene after Tasha was released and she was snitching. Now, if he didn't know that Tasha was snitching before, while he was actually in California, he definitely found out when she was released from jail, when Davis McLean held the press conference, and he said that the search for Tommy Egan is now on. So he definitely found out then when his name was mentioned at that press conference when Tasha was released from jail. But it's possible that he already knew that Tasha was snitching, and that he was just waiting for the opportunity for her to come back and for her to get released from jail to come back and take care of her. So Tariq comes up with the plan for Tommy to fake his death. So he fakes his death, he leaves New York, and on the way back to California. He ends up in Chicago, and while in Chicago, he finds out that he has a brother, JP, that he meets and begins to start developing a relationship. He runs into the Flynn family, the Irish mafia of Chicago. He runs into the Sampson brothers, who run the CBI, a big gang in the Chicago area, and he partners up with Liliana, all the way from who we know all the way from Power Season 1, who one of Kanan's hitters sliced up her face really good and they sent her away. So he has a good run with Dahlia, also partnering up with Claude Flynn to sell Dahlia. But at the end of Season 1, Tommy is now on the Chicago police radar, except they don't know his identity because he's definitely got a clean plate and everything like that. We know that because Force Episode 2, Diamond is getting questioned in Tommy Egan's car. He's driving Tommy around the city while they're trying to hit licks to pay back somebody that Diamond owes from prison. And they're going around hitting licks around the city, and a cop actually begins to question Diamond. And when Tommy walks out, Tommy gives him his license and registration, and he tells Diamond that he's clean as a whistle, that he as much as doesn't even have a parking ticket. So the cop runs his license and registration, and everything is legit. So his fake identity is working perfectly. Whoever set him up has some real power because they were able to set him up with a complete legit fake ID, fake car registration, in a fake name and everything, that it can actually go through a police system in a complete other state and be legit. So who could have helped Tommy? Because we do know it was Tariq's plan, so I believe it was definitely one of Tariq's connections who helped Tommy out. I don't think Tommy had the connection. It was Tariq's plan. So it was probably one of Tariq's connections who Tariq got in some way to help Tommy out and provide him the clean ID, registration, and everything he needs to fake his death. So I want to look at a few possible characters, only few in my mind, because Tommy didn't really have anybody he was connected to that could help him pull anything like this off. The only person who could have helped him pull something like this off was his lawyer, Joseph Proctor, who we already know Tommy killed prior to this, so he didn't have that connection any longer. So it definitely had to be one of Tariq's connections. So I'll look at a few characters here, and the first would be Simon Stern. Simon Stern helped get Tariq into Stansfield, and his husband is currently the one out of all these people who was at the time most connected to Tariq, because he was helping Tariq legitimize Course Correct. So Simon Stern definitely could have the power, even though he's not in government himself. He definitely has the connections where he could have got Tommy Egan the fake ID and everything he needed. So, and Tariq definitely has met Simon Stern and had a relationship with him already. Another person who definitely could have been involved with this is Stephen Ott from the Democratic Party. And this is who I believed helped Ghost fake his death. If Ghost indeed did fake his death, I believe it was Stephen Ott from the Democratic Party who helped him do this. And Tariq did meet Stephen Ott for the first time in the same episode. He was there in the in the courtroom when Stephen Ott was calling all the shots that set Tariq's mother free. So he was in that courtroom. He saw that Stephen Ott had what kind of power Stephen Ott had. He definitely could have approached Stephen Ott with this and asked for Stephen Ott's help and let him know strictly that Tommy Egan is back for revenge from his mother and his family is in danger, that if Tommy Egan is willing to leave town, if he is able to fake his death and get away with some clean records. And Stephen Ott definitely would have the most power out of anybody being connected with the Democratic Party. We already know he had the power to get Jacob Warner fired for pursuing Ghost, and he could walk into judges' chambers and tell them to get lost. I mean, he was definitely a very, very powerful influential figure in what we've seen of him, even in season 2 of Ghost, forcing the councilman out because Tate was able to get dirt on him. And that gets me into the third option that could have helped Tommy Egan get out of town, and that is Councilman Richard Tate. And we already know that Tate had the ability to provide clean plates and license and identification because he did this for Andre Coleman in power right before Andre Coleman was caught and sent to jail and killed. He was given clean identification, clean plates by Councilman Tate to get out of town. Now, I don't know if Tommy Egan had a relationship with Councilman Tate, and I don't even know if Tariq had a relationship with Councilman Tate at this point in time, because I know they developed a relationship in season 2 of Ghost. But at this point in season 1, I definitely do know they knew of each other. Definitely from, if anything, Ghost funeral they met. I can't remember if they ever met going back to Power, what kind of relationship they possibly had. But those are my 3 most likely options who Tariq could have turned to help Tommy Egan get out of New York with clean records. Now, as far as who could have helped Tommy Egan away from the crime scene, now that is a whole nother story. It could have been Tariq himself. He could have possibly sent Braden there. So that's a definitely possible thing to keep an eye out. Has Tommy Egan and Braden Weston actually met? Because that could have been a easy way for Tommy to get away, because they would not be looking at Braden Weston if he was around that area. He could have just picked Tommy up, took him to his car, and got him out of New York. So we got 2-Bit, who is a possibility, Braden Weston, Tariq himself, and not sure who else could have been there. I mean, he could have just escaped on foot and had his car in a close by proximity, possibly gotten on a bus or called an Uber, something like that. We don't know because they did not show us, but it might be revealed in season 2 of Force. Moving forward, maybe these holes that were in the story will be tied up and be found out. Leave your thoughts in the comments.